The grim murder of the Essex Boys spawned a film franchise with a feverish cult fan base. But it turns out these gangsters were amateurs. On a cold, iced-up morning in December 1995, Peter Theobald, a farmer from the Essex village of Retterdon, set out with his friend to feed his pheasants.
By that time it was about 8 o'clock, and we both jumped in the Land Rover to go over to feed our pheasants.
At the end of Workhouse Lane, a quiet, remote farm track, Theobald found a Range Rover parked at the gate. Inside the Range Rover sat the remains of the now notorious Essex Boys drugs gang, Tony Tucker, Patrick Tate and Craig Rolfe. Theobald later questioned why there was so little blood. They had been killed with close range blasts from a pump action shotgun. Tate was shot in the torso and head, Craig Rolfe in the back of the head, just above the ear, splitting his face and forcing one of his eyes out, and Tony Tucker in the side of the head, destroying his jaw and teeth. The slaying had happened so fast that the two men sat up front, Rolfe in the driver's seat, Tucker in the passenger seat, had no time to react. The next morning, Tucker was still holding his mobile phone. Rolfe's hands were still clamped on the wheel and his foot pressed on the brake. The crime was linked to the Essex-related death of the 18-year-old Leah Betts. She had suffered water intoxication after taking pills on her birthday and resulted in a controversial police operation. 2 men were finally sentenced for the murders in January 1998, but questions about what really happened have persisted. The crimes and murders of the Essex Boys have also fueled one niche corner of the British film industry, specifically the gangster and geezer genre. Low budget, low brow, ultra profane, unabashedly violent crime flicks which are despised or ignored by critics but make a modest killing via supermarket DVD shelves and digital downloads. The Essex Boys have spawned more than 10 films, a sub-genre in their own right, usually built around the same money shot, the dramatic recreation of the Essex Boys murders. It began in 2000 with the Sean Bean starring Essex Boys. Since then, there's been Bonded by Blood and Bonded by Blood 2, of course. Fall of the Essex Boys, Essex Boys Retribution and Essex Boys Law of Survival, 1-star reviews all around. But the real Mr. Big of Essex Boys films is the rise of the Foot Soldier series, one of Britain's only non-Bond franchises. The British gangsters genre own Fast and the Furious, starring Terry Stone as Tony Tucker and Craig Fairbrass as Pat Tate. The first film, 2007's Rise of the Foot Soldier, was based on the memoir by CARLTONLEACH about his journey from football hooligan to Essex Boys associate. A 5th instalment, Rise of the Foot Soldier Origins, hit cinemas on September the 3rd. The series is so popular that it jumped straight from DVD to cinema screens. Craig Fairbrass has been enjoying a critical rebirth with the shocking, unexpectedly sublime Muscle and top-notch crime film Villain, both flipping his hardman persona from British B-movies on its rock-solid head. Then he returned as Pat Tate, an 18-stone bodybuilder with a crack-fueled temper for a 5th time. I was in the gym one day. My mate said to me, "If they ever make a film about this, you'd make a perfect Pat Tate," says Fairbrass. Fast forward, and I'm sitting in the back of a Range Rover, covered in fake blood, soaking wet and freezing cold. He adds, "There's always been this fascination with gangsters and crime, but there's a bigger fascination, I think, with these characters. I can remember taking my kids to school that morning and hearing they'd been murdered. It's not every day you hear of 3 men being gunned down." Indeed, the Essex Boys have become a self-perpetuating gangland myth, one step down from the craze, glorified by the circle of movies. "They're icons of gangsterism," said Nick Nevin. Nevin, best recognised as Diana Morgan's useless ex in Motherland, starred in 2013's Fall of the Essex Boys as Darren Nichols. He's now circled back to direct Rise of the Foot Soldier Origins. "This film's definitely better than that one," he laughs about Fall of the Essex Boys. Indeed, the various Essex Boys films share actors and talent. Terry Stone plays Tony Tucker in 2 separate franchises, both Rise of the Foot Soldier and Bonded by Blood. Anil Mescal, star of The Kill List and Utopia, has played both Craig Rolfe and Darren Nichols, the supergrass who testified against the trio's killers. Rise of the Foot Soldier Origins has some heavyweight hard nuttery in the shape of Vinnie Jones. After Rise of the Foot Soldier Marbella, the series' fourth instalment sent the boys on a jolly-up, the Essex Boys version of a sitcom's Christmas special set in Spain. Nick Nevin wanted to get back to the hard edge of the first film. He delved into the online world of the Essex Boys' obsession, forums, social media pages, online conspiracies. One Rise of the Foot Soldier fan visited the murder site and posted his pilgrimage on YouTube. You go on the internet and there are groups with thousands of people talking about it, says Nevin. The films, the murders, the Rise of the Foot Soldier. It's crazy that it's so fascinating. Craig Rolfe, rather grimly, was born in prison. He had a serious cocaine habit. It was in his best interest to latch on to Tucker and Tate. Pat Tate made connections in prison, including Mick Steele and Jack Womes, the two men later convicted of Tate, Tucker and Rolfe's murder. Back on the outside, Tucker and Tate fell out with local villain Steve Nipper Ellis. When he made threats against his family, Ellis shot Tate in the arm. Tate went to Basildon Hospital but was discovered to be concealing a gun. He was sent back to prison and was released again in October 1995, just weeks before his murder. Tate and Tucker spiralled out of control on drugs. They spent weeks smoking crack cocaine, up to £1,000 worth a day. In one notorious incident, often recreated in the movies, Tate beat up a pizza shop manager for not doing the right toppings. This later turned into Fairbrass slicing up the manager's face with a pizza cutter. Tate even threatened his own mother. She carried around a note pointing police towards him in case anything happened to her while she was out walking her dog. The death of Leah Betts, who died after taking an ecstasy pill supplied through Tucker's dealers at Raquel's, made national headlines. Led by an emotional press conference with Betts' parents and photos of her in a coma. Crossing the wrong people and out of control, Pat Tate's death was inevitable, but hitting Tate meant hitting Tucker and Rolfe too. On the 6th of December 1995, Michael still rode with the trio to Workhouse Lane. He'd lured them there under the pretense of planning the heist of a cocaine-filled aeroplane. Steele's real motivation was the fallout from their botched Amsterdam deal and apparently threats made by Tate to have Steele ironed out. According to certain sources, Steele talked Jack Womes into carrying out the hit with him. When the Range Rover reached the gate, Steele got out to open it, at which point Womes emerged from the bushes with 2 shotguns. Tate, the cause of the trouble, was the last to be killed. A third man, Darren Nichols, helped plan the shooting and drove them away from the murder scene. Even in the immediate aftermath, the legend began to grow. A Channel 4 Dispatches documentary described the gang as an 80-man organisation. The Guardian described Tony Tucker as a friend to the stars, perhaps inspired by the fact it was the mind of a boxer, Nigel Benn. The police launched Operation Sentry. They attempted to scare suspects by calling them and pretending to be IRA terrorists. It was unsuccessful, but Darren Nichols later flipped on Steele and Womes, turned informant and went into witness protection. That the Essex Boys continued to fuel their own mythology is perhaps down to the ongoing mystery. Steele and Womes protested their innocence, and Jack Womes' brother John launched an attention-grabbing campaign. But even this year, Nipper Ellis claimed his father was the real assassin. Elsewhere, a former detective claimed the trio were killed over heist money. Interest was stirred up again as Jack Womes was finally released from prison in March. There is a weird moral quandary at the centre of the Essex Boys' infamy on film. Real people, and not very nice people, posthumously cooperated as icons of straight-to-DVD crime capers. It's the strangest thing, says Craig Fairbrass. There was some backlash when the first film came out about glorifying these kinds of people. But this is the genre that prides itself on wanton violence and C-words. Cooperation of mortality is a badge honour. Fans say it's such a relief, says Fairbrass. It's the same shit all the time. There's nothing for White Van Man. People write to me and tell me they have a foot soldier night. They get a load of beer and all the boys and watch the whole lot. It's an escape. Rise of the Foot Soldier Origins is now available on Blu-ray.